paper, cut to you, and today we're going to be focusing on endgame strategies in Fortnite and things that have helped me be more consistent in my gameplay. This is going to be console gameplay. I am on Xbox and we're a little bit different than the PC. If you don't find this applies to you, so be it, but I think there's a lot of strategies here that end up crossing platforms. I don't think that's really the important thing. I think it's trying to get into what makes a good endgame and what kind of things work. And I'll quickly bring up bush campers in the endgame later in the video. The next one is going to be actually a complete game from mid to endgame. I thought it's a good thing to follow up from the beginning because even though there's a lot more varied strategies that you can bring into your early game, you can just try to survive or you can hide, you can kind of group that together, you can be more aggressive. There are some things that you want to do in the early game, and that's collect materials typically and have some sort of weapon that's going to leave you somewhat in the running without being too far behind. Usually you want at least an AR, a shotgun. Consumables are going to vary depending on your situation. But what I like about this clip, I ended up having a lot of singular clips that brought out all the points, but I think this one has everything, so I just switched it off for this extended game. And Fortnite has been a little bit glitchy on the building, unfortunately. I hope they get that straightened out. Otherwise, console building can still be pretty satisfying to use once you get used to it. The newest thing for me is trying to learn how to reorient the ramps. I find that is a little bit confusing. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But walls, switching back to flat ground. The flat ground is actually really useful now. The more that I've played this game is the more that I can appreciate that piece. Before I used to just be all about walls and ramps, but the flat piece makes it so you can make petals. It's a really good defensive structure for people trying to build up to you. You can just deny them with flat pieces. So that's why I really like this game. The more I get into it, the more I can appreciate it. And it's funny how you can already start appreciating it at the beginning, but it even gets better as you get better at it. This is one of those tips. Remember, if you have the axe out, it will just automatically stack everything that you have. If for the little potions, if you have something else equipped and you're already maxed, it will drop something. So that's why the axe is a way better way to do it. And it's actually quite fast in this game to switch back and forth once you get used to it as well. Combat Pro seems to have stepped up to everybody's game. It's a good thing they actually put it by default for everyone to just start using because it is definitely the superior way to play this game on console. That aside, something that I want to see more of, which I just think is strong, is not always having to be inside of the circle before you build. The reason for that is, especially as you get into the end game, the storm moves really slow, so you can see it coming and then you can start making your approach. The only reason you'd want to do this, obviously, is to save materials typically. If there's already a fort in position, if there's high ground there, which is the reason you'd want to stay there instead of already going into the circle. Or you may want to possibly build on top of an existing structure, again to save materials, but they also have strong bases, and by that I mean they're wide. And one of the mistakes I used to make when I first started playing was being really cautious of giving away my position inside of my fort by shooting. Thought about it, it's like, no man, everybody knows you're in a fort. Like, your element of surprise is gone. So at that point, I'm fine with shooting into bushes if I think people are there. And in the end game, there typically are people there. Take note of this area with the 3 trees. There's also 2 bushes. But one of the things that helped me relax in this game was knowing that you're typically not a one-shot. Unless you get sniped, there's usually time for you to react in this game. The storm is just about to go through that house, so I want to make sure no one's going to run out of there in case that's where they were hiding. Right now I have a really nice position. I am covered from the right. That big fort can't see me. Right now I feel really good. If I double back, that's the area that I just covered, so I should have that cleared. I'm going to start doubling back now, and I have the minigun. It's pretty good. I like it. It's another sink for light ammo. Oh, we have another guy in the bush. But I like how they're making use of light ammo, which typically people would just scoff at. But I still find the RPG to be king. I think people are starting to figure out that making very tall towers on very narrow bases is a bad thing because they have a tendency of getting blown out. Once you understand how to shoot out the base of structures, you are going to be doing a lot better for yourself. And I see this kind of structure made a lot. There is the double, which is good, but it still has its faults depending on how high you end up building it. You're going to see that in a moment. And then another guy that does a single floor and then starts expanding on top of it like a flower. You need to have a nice thick base so you can't get your structure shot down. This guy takes it a step further by actually dropping down to the bottom and rebuilding it, and that's what you need to do. That's a winning strategy right there. If you can either drop down by making some openings in your fort, depending on how good you are at editing, you're going to be able to remake the base. And as soon as I see that he's doing that, I'm just wasting rockets. That hurt. Not too much, but that can make a difference in the end game. I believe I'm going to end up using my med kit. It's 10 hit points is a lot. There is another base. That base has a small base. We're going to take care of that in a moment. This is the glitchiness of it. This kind of sucks. Fortnite really needs to get their lag issues under control, and the way that the pieces come out when you're trying to flip from piece to piece, at least on console, means that you have to slow down your building. I'm sure they're going to fix that soon, but that's kind of what you're seeing here, where some of the pieces get messed up, just kind of like my talking. We are down to 4 players. This is pretty good. I'm trying to stay fast. Some guy does take a snipe shot at me. The RPG, oh my god, the RPG is just so good to knock off shields, and it's the anti-material weapon, and so is the minigun. I like how they have more uses for that, especially in the end game. These things are going to be really important when people are starting to rock 1,000 of each material. You may not be capped, but there's a good possibility that somebody's holding about 2,000 pieces. You know, that's a lot of building. So the minigun really has a nice place in the game in trying to minimize those effects, especially in the end game, which is when people will typically start acquiring greater quantities of resources. One of the problems that I was having when you're trying to do defensive building, as in when someone's just spamming you, you have to be able to switch to your weapon and return some pressure. If not, they're just going to do that to you endlessly. One of the things that can happen is you take a few shots and you need time to heal. How you make your defensive structure around that is going to be a little bit different. If you have to make triple, quadruple walls in front of you, adding ramps on top of each one of your walls just gives you extra cover and extra time for you to down a potion. Potions, I will drop anything for mini potions. I find that they go a long way and they're just so fast to activate. Right now I'm contemplating shooting a rocket in there. I'm like, oh, he already killed him. Maybe he goes for the loot. I had a pretty good shot, but what I really want is for him to make a ramp and jump into that structure. This is a perfect angle to just kill anybody that jumps in there, but he seems to be too smart for that. Somebody's also shooting rockets at me. I'm not too worried about that right now. I'm actually going to abandon ship because I have to set up for the next circle. So the difference between regular cover and using the map as cover is that, again, it draws way less attention. Some people are really bad at looking through wood as well. Like, some people just, it's kind of like looking at a magic eye for them. They just can't see it. Some people are really good at seeing you through wood. Some people will even see you through 2 walls, you know, or through ramps. Other people will not. So if you build multiple structures around yourself, sometimes that can throw people off. If you are going to be sticking in a fort, then it's like, which fort are they in, A, B, or C? I can buy my time right now. I feel really good about where I am. As soon as that thing starts moving in, I know where he is. I'm going to wait for the other guy. Maybe they end up pressuring each other. Okay, this looks like an opening. This is my first time encountering the minigun. This was the first time having it. This was, I think, my first game back when the update dropped. That thing is pretty nasty. Luckily, it doesn't do huge damage, but it definitely, it has its place. It's a pretty cool weapon. But that's the end of this video. It actually flew by. I'm going to keep doing these examples. I like breaking stuff down, and I do like this game. I find that there's a lot to it. They keep adding stuff. So we are going to be mixing this into the channel. I think that's pretty much it, though. I'm really only into this and Titanfall at the time. But again, thanks for joining me. I'm Paper, cut to you, and I'll see you guys next time.